Hello, my name is Andrew Thake from Minds and Money. Delighted to be joined today by Paul West Sales, who's the President and Chief Executive Officer of Western Copper and Gold. Delighted to have you with us today, Paul.
It's a pleasure to be here, Andrew.
Paul, for our viewers who are not familiar about Western Copper and Gold, can you give us a brief overview about the company?
Sure. Western Copper and Gold is a single asset development company. We've been developing the Casino Copper Gold project up in the Yukon now for actually close to a dozen years. And, by far, the past 3 years have been the most exciting years in the company's history. You go back about 3 years ago, we updated the resource. The resource is now close to 11 billion pounds of copper, 21 million ounces of gold, and significant molybdenum. I don't talk about molybdenum much, but now that it's close to $33 last time I saw, you got to put that out to investors. So, significant resource. That was 3 years ago. 2 years ago, we brought on Rio Tinto as a strategic investor into the company. Obviously, depending on how you add everything up, the first or second largest mining company in the world. Really excited to have them and working with them. Last year, we published a feasibility study on the project. The feasibility study looks absolutely great. 2.3 billion net present value, over 18% IRR. Both of those are after tax. That's at 360 copper and $1,700 gold and $14 moly. You move all those commodity prices up to what we're seeing today with spot, $4 copper, $1,700 gold, $33 moly, and the weaker Canadian dollar. You're looking at a project right now that has a net present value of $5.5 billion. This is a great project, great location up in the Yukon, great partner with Rio Tinto. It's an exciting time for the company. It's an exciting time for our shareholders. This is going to be a big year.
So, talking about 2023, and what are the key milestones that investors can expect to see over the next 6 to 18 months?
Sure. Yeah. there's 2023 has got a couple key focuses. One of them's already done, actually. So the first thing to do was to wrap up the technical work that we were doing with Rio Tinto. So we issued early this year. We issued the MET program work that we did. Looked great. I was telling shareholders for a while. I said, look, we're getting results in. It looks, it supports everything we used in the feasibility study, and in some cases even improves upon that. That's exactly what the final results showed. So we're excited about that. That sort of wraps up the technical work with Rio. So, Rio extended, they had a one-time right to extend their, partnership with us it expires at the end of 2023, November 28th, 2023. So this is the year we decide what's next with us in Rio. So that's going to be exciting. The other big push is on permitting. Feasibility studies done. That was a key thing. The big push this year is to get the application in front of the regulators. So lots of work on that and announcements on that as well.
So we've heard obviously a little bit about the project, a little bit about the commodities as well, and a little bit about the upcoming milestones. Interested to delve a little bit deeper about yourself and the management team. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I've been with the company since 2006, so I've been here for a while. Started in a technical role. My background, I've got a doctorate in metallurgy. So started on the technical side, and then have sort of had a number of roles, and have been in this. Have been president and CEO for approximately the past 6 years. So that's me. And before that, I worked for Barrick, I worked for Placer Dome, worked for BHP, so came from the majors. A couple other key people in the team. I'll just go by how long they've been with the company. Cam Brown. Cam is our VP of engineering. He used to work for Bechtel. He was project manager on Las Pelambres. He's built big copper mines, absolutely critical in terms of the feasibility study. we just brought on, well, just I guess it's been a little over a year now. Sheena Shaw, born and raised Yukoner, works in the permitting field. She's our VP of Environmental and Community Affairs. Obviously, this is a big year in terms of what she's going to be doing. And then the most recent addition to our team is Ken Enquist as COO. And again, his background is actually in Rio Tinto. He was involved in Oyu Tolgoi, a couple other major projects. So sort of finishes fleshing out that operating team. So a great senior management team with of course lots of support on that. But yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see some more activity in that as we begin to build a team that will bring this mine into production. Might be with Western Copper and Gold, might be with Rio Tinto, might be some combination of the two, maybe, and there's a couple other guys around kicking the tires, but more importantly, it's people that are passionate about this project and passionate about turning it into being a mine.
Mm-hmm. Who are your key shareholders?
So number one is Rio with a little under 8%. And then after that, we've got, some really good, blue chip American funds, Fidelity, Franklin, Copernic. So those are sort of the key institutional. We've got a really good, our chairman, who was, he was the guy who hired me, Dale Corman. He retired. He's in his 80s, so he retired a couple of years ago. He's got a big position along with a couple of his sort of long-term group of investors that invest with him. So they together hold a fair chunk of the outstanding shares as well. And then our management board is pretty significant as well. Between myself and a couple of directors, we've got I think close to 6% of the outstanding shares.
Mm-hmm. The key buzzword within the mining industry, I think over the last 2, 3, or even 4 years has been ESG. What are your ESG credentials?
I love being asked this question because it's something we take very seriously, but more importantly, it's something that we can point to, some real tangible things that we've done on the ESG front. And I'll just quickly talk about two. The first one is our tailings facility. So our tailings facility, tailings facilities getting a lot of scrutiny, after the tailings dam failures in Mount Poly and in Brazil with Samarco. And so, on the back of that, we had concern locally with our communities around the tailings facility. We stopped and spent 2 years going through our tailings and mine waste design. This was a big process. It took, like I said, 2 years. We started with 495 different options and whittled it down to one. And this is what we're moving forward with. So it's a perfect example of, consider around the environment, but also using that social part. What are making sure the communities have a significant input into what we're doing. The other, aspect I want to talk about is our access road. Which, a few years ago, we had the federal government, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, actually showed up, made an announcement of funding for 3 access roads, and one of those access roads was the road into Casino. And again, this is ESG at work. To make that happen, all of the impacted First Nations needed to sign off conceptually on these roads, and they did. And now that road is actually the first part of the road is under construction, due to be complete this year. So, particularly these large mines, particularly in places like Northern Canada, the projects are successful when you've got the local communities, the First Nation governments, the federal and territorial governments all working together. And that's what I think we've done here fairly well. That's what attracted Rio Tinto into the project, and that's why the project keeps getting the support that it does.
One final question. There's a number of mining companies out there that mine or are exploring for copper and gold. What kind of makes you sort of stand out from them? Is it your partnership and relationship with Rio Tinto? Is it the fact that you're also mining for molybdenum, or is it sort of something else?
Yes, and yes. I like all those.
Anything to add?
Yeah, well, and obviously I'm joking a little bit, but part of it is the package. it's the package. And so, I mean, we've got obviously a large, good sized resource with close to 11 billion pounds of copper, 21 million ounces of gold. We've got the location. I mean, we're up in the Yukon, we're in Canada. You know, this obviously is a stable government. You know, it's a place that people like to mine. It's relatively straightforward in terms of moving a mine forward. The First Nation community relations part is incredibly important. And, you know, the trick with Canada, everyone likes operating a mine in Canada. The challenge in Canada is sometimes developing those relationships and making those relationships with communities and First Nations and governments. And that's something I think that we've done very, very well. So I think all those things together, plus, you know, I always say, look, you can wave your arms about all these things. At the end of the day, mining companies, the job is actually not to mine, it's to make money and for the shareholders. And so when you've got a project with the economic returns that ours does, backed by a full feasibility study that's, you know, a little over 6 months old at this point in time, so fairly recent, that's key.
Well, Paul, thank you very much for your time today. We look forward to seeing you at Mines and Money Miami, and would certainly encourage our viewers to go and check out Western Copper and Gold. Thank you very much for your time, Paul.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been a pleasure.